Divorced women are choosing not to date again in significant rates.
These conversations always leave out an important factor. Men are choosing to stay single too. Describe, let's talk about it.
Women are choosing being single over settling. Men are going to stay lonely until they accept why that is. And I want to be clear about what I mean. This is not about women hating men. This is about women adapting to a cultural shift that men haven't caught up to yet. There's a generation of men who were taught that showing up financially was enough, that emotional availability was optional, that household responsibilities, emotional labor, that was a her department. And women tolerated it because the alternative was harder. It's not harder anymore. Women are leaving unengaged partners. They're leaving men who won't work on the relationship, won't balance the responsibilities of a house, won't show up emotionally. And then they're looking at what's available and deciding that being alone is actually the better option. Divorced women are choosing not to date again in significant rates. Not because they hate men, because the effort required to manage another one isn't worth what they're getting back. So if men are lonely, the question worth asking is not what women are doing wrong, it's this. Do you want to stay lonely or do you want to adapt? Because women already did.
So to have an honest dialogue about this, you would have to start with with your preposition that men are lonely. While we understand and we talked about the male loneliness epidemic and how it's been overblown or used it's been weaponized in a way to make it seem like, okay, if in order to fix this loneliness that is a male problem and a male only problem, that females aren't experiencing loneliness as well, that men have to now change and adapt to give women exactly what they want. But in reality, there's a lot of men here that are just simply choosing, say, hey, I've tried it. I've been married. I tried it. It's not for me. And especially when you're saying, okay, we can simply date, we can cohabitate, or not even, we can just do what we can do whenever. We don't have to get married. They're looking at, and we're using marriage as the rubric, as the measure of whether or not people are lonely or not, which again, doesn't really make a lot of sense. When men are looking at it and saying, okay, divorce laws are a problem. I don't want to go into something like this where through no fault of my own, because we see a lot of women also purporting that, hey, I got bored. We had a video just yesterday where a woman said, yeah, I was married for 11 years. I got bored. I cheated on him. Where even if there's no infidelity on either part, she simply says, I'm no longer satisfied. I'm no longer served by this marriage. Therefore, I'm leaving it. And it's not to say that she isn't within her rights to do so. But when you do, there's a financial burden usually on the male to actually facilitate this entire thing. So men are not dumb. They may be quiet about a lot of issues, or be quiet about a lot of their thoughts, but they see that and they say, great, got it. I'm not going to engage in that. I still want to engage in you, with you, on top of you, but I don't want to do it in a way that's going to actually end up being financially detrimental to me. All right. Then you look at what she's saying, that a lot of women, once they leave, a lot of divorced women, they don't choose to get remarried. Well, there's more of that conscious saying, you left the marriage, now maybe you have kids, but you're definitely older. And a lot of men are looking and say, this may be something to have fun with, but not something to say, let's now build an entire new life together. You don't see a lot of women coming out and getting married a second time, third time, fourth time. It's not really the case. Men do that. You often see, especially wealthy men, on their third or fourth marriages. So it's not a thing where we're making it just seem, well, they're just so dissatisfied, so they'd rather choose not to. I think, and this is just me spitballing, right? I think what we suffer from is a lack of honesty when women are talking about their actual issues. You want to speak like there's nothing. You don't want to be pitied. You don't want people to feel like, hey, maybe you made the wrong decision here. So everything is framed in a very positive light, but you don't seem to be capable of shining that same sort of light on men. You're saying that, okay, women have adapted, they've changed. You don't think men also have adapted and changed? You just have this idea that they're supposed to follow what you're saying. If part of the adaptation and change is saying that you have to do more with the house, you have to do more of the emotional labor while also providing for us financially, and we're using just you can call it anecdotal, but you see what this is and all across the media and all different spectrums saying, yes, he's supposed to provide. He's supposed to pay the majority of bills or all the bills. Okay, and this we're just taking from what we're seeing on the internet. We all know the truth that in real life, the people that are getting coupled, they know it's a collaborative effort. But to combat takes like this, you can't pretend as if, okay, your desires or what you're saying the adaptation for women has been is just more demands upon men. It's very rarely that you see anything here saying, okay, you're adapted, so you want men to do more, therefore you are also contributing more. No, you're simply saying, well, in the past, women just accepted that without really having conversation with women in the past. You have conversations with women saying it's happening in the past. You have conversations with women that's been dissatisfied with things that happened from previous generations. So you take that as gospel. You take that as this is what every woman was saying, was doing, was experiencing. You think that every single woman in the past that was married for X amount of years, 20 years, 30 years, now you're saying she would never have done that. She would have traded it all to be more like us. And that's patently false. But we go with it. So now you make changes. You want more from men in an economy that's harder. So that you have to work longer hours or multiple jobs. And then you want him to actually be emotionally available in a society where it tells him, don't be emotionally available. In a society that shows him the consequences of being emotionally available. You want your men to be masculine men with also being hyper liberal men. You want them to be soft, but you want them to be hard and task driven outside of that. You are saying that you're evolving or adapting into such a space where you simply want more from men. We don't really see, as men, we don't see the adaptation. We just see you making different choices. It's not as if now you understand men more. You seem to understand us less. You want us to be creatures that we're not, while also now providing for you monetarily while getting less in the exchange. And then you presuppose all this by saying, well, this is why you're lonely, because you won't acquiesce to what we want you to do. This is why even when we are together and you can be a decent man, you can be a good man, I'm still going to leave you because I'm unhappy. You never look with that critical eye and say, in this adaptation that women have undergone, have we started to adopt some ideals, some thoughts that are not really grounded in reality? When we have moved to a society that says the way you feel is of maximum importance, the way you feel is gospel, is biblical, there's nothing greater than the way you feel, and the rest of society around you, especially men, need to bow and understand that. They need to pray at your altar in order to be worthy of your attention. When you can't be critiqued, when you can't be challenged on any of these views, what are men supposed to do? Well, you want them to fall in, to follow, to adapt to the new paradigm shift. But if the paradigm shift simply puts you at the center of the universe, what you're seeing is essentially men saying, I'd rather be lonely. I can't follow you there because there it's all dependent on how you feel today. It's on your whim. I could do everything that you say I'm supposed to do, but you can be easily influenced by other things around you. So now you adopt a new paradigm shift, and I'm supposed to now jump and shift with that. It's impossible. When you build a life together, where you build something, it requires stability. It requires an understanding that Monday is going to look like Monday most Mondays. Yes, there's room for change. Things happen. You have audibles that need to be played, but eventually you get back to how Monday's supposed to be. You want Monday to feel like Friday sometimes when it makes sense, but also a holiday, but also Christmas. But don't forget, it should be also New Year's at the same time. You want the ability to be flexible, to change on your whim, and you want men to be able to follow that. You've forgotten that the role of man is sometimes to be the bounds. You can feel the way you feel, but when you start going too far left or right, you hit the bounds. And they say, babe, bring it back to center. That's sometimes what our role is. We're not saying that you should be limited in your creativity and your freedom, but there's sometimes you walk down a path so far we can't follow because there's no road. It's all feeling. So if you want to call this adaptation, so be it. the men that you want, the men, especially the men that are also understand themselves emotionally, that doesn't mean they somehow follow you. The men that understand are fine with carrying more of the load around the house or making ways to provision for that. They understand they're not going to follow you. They still want structure and stability in their lives. The adaptation that has occurred with men, they understand, I don't have to do this. I don't have to. Just like you said in the past, women had to do this because of the dire consequences. Well, men are understanding part of that adaptation. I don't have to do this with you. I don't have to create a life with you in which I'm the secondary, tertiary person in this entire family. I don't have to struggle. I don't have to have my feelings, my thoughts, my boundaries crossed simply to make you happy, simply to just try and make you satisfied. Men are understanding that your happiness is your responsibility. So when you suddenly decide you're no longer happy, that wasn't something I did. I was a steady rock that I'm supposed to be. I can be emotionally available for you up to a point because I'm not your girlfriend. At that point, when you decide, I want to break this thing up because I think the grass is greener, even if it's not another person, but I'm not getting what I want here. It was never my job to maintain your happiness. It was always my job to steer us in the direction we should be going, where we can create a beautiful life together, where we can create something for our kids, leave them something, move forward, where we get our satisfaction. I'm taking care of myself for you, you take care of yourself for me. But when you put more and more in that onus, that expectation on men, they're always going to fall short. We're always going to fall short because you are ever changing. At some point in time, you realize this after the fact. But what you don't realize or what you don't share with other women is that, yeah, some of these choices I made did not make sense. Some of these moves I made did not make sense. You have so many other different creators saying, I've never regretted leaving a man. Think about the foolishness of that statement. You've never, ever in your life experienced regret that you said, that man was a good man, and I kind of made things difficult. I wish I could have that type of regret. Is a natural part of life. It's a natural part of existence. The fact that a lot of women can't even admit that tells you that a lot of the problem comes down to the conversations that you're having with one another. That it's always going to be that man's problem, that man's fault. We've changed, we've adapted. They have to do the same thing. No, a lot of men are fine with just being lonely. But listen, if you disagree, let me know down in the comments below. If you see other videos on your screen, check those out. Let me know your thoughts about those in those videos. And of course, if you listen to my voice now, if you have not subscribed, I think you should. We're just trying to build something dope. I'll see you in the next one.